Our next guest is Safiya Florence Ascoli-Ball. Safiya was born in Mulhouse, Alsace, in France. Coincidentally, Mulhouse is nicknamed the French Manchester. It's a very diverse and industrial city. Safiya studied foreign languages and business at a university in eastern France. Thereafter, she settled in London in the 1990s, as it was then a very attractive place for young French people to settle. She's married to Le Mans, is mother of 4 teenagers, works as a translator, a French tutor, a Pilates instructor. This is her second time on one of our Muslim Jewish Forum Zoom panels. Safiya came to live in the UK 27 years ago, so much sooner, not that long ago compared to Tahara and Tommy. She is a Muslim and her native language is French. So over to you, Safiya, we'd like to hear your story.
Thank you very much, Heather. Assalamu alaikum, shalom alaikum. Good evening, everybody. It's lovely to be here again. It's an honor to be asked twice. And I'm glad I can contribute. And I just found it fascinating to hear all of these different contributions, and despite maybe the age gap or the origin, we have so much in common. I could catch myself nodding very enthusiastically to some of the contributions that were made. So yes, I grew up in Alsace. Some of you may know it's right next to Germany and was German for quite a long time over the years, sort of last century, and has been French now for less than 100 years still. So the local language or dialect is Alsatian, which is really a dialect from German. Most Alsatians can understand German, but Germans can't understand Alsatians. It's quite useful. But our generation really did not know much Alsatian, especially not those raised in the city. And also in my situation, my dad was half Italian. So the language that they used in the family was mainly French for my grandmother, and Italian with his own grandmother. So there was already quite a mixed an environment of several languages in my immediate vicinity. Going on holidays to Italy, my ear was prepared to, and I think just naturally I had an interest in languages from a young age. I asked to learn Italian when I was about 8, 9, and didn't last very long because wasn't really common, and there was no really sort of school where there would be Italian afterwards. So I did not really pursue it very long. And sadly, yes, like your daughters told me about with Hungarian, I reproached my dad for not really speaking Italian to us, but it wasn't his mother language either. So although he's fluent and bilingual, he felt French was the more natural language for him to speak, and also he blamed us for laughing whenever he was saying some funny Italian words. So it was not really easy for him. But because of that, I'm still able to speak Italian, the basic Italian, fairly easily. Plus later on, I studied Spanish at school, so that helped a lot. So now my Italian is a bit of a mixture of both. But I get by. So I studied English when I was 14 in France. I studied several languages, unlike Britain. If you're not an English speaker, you have to learn English. But it was only my second language. In those times in Alsace, German was the first language in school. So I was really good at German for a while until I dropped it before I went to university. So like a muscle, if you don't practice it, it will fizzle away quite quickly, unfortunately. So I was not that great in English until my last year, which is the equivalent of A-levels, where I had a fantastic teacher. And I then decided to pursue studies that would include English and Spanish. So I went to university to study that. So I'm a more kind of a traditional sort of foreigner here who has learned English through school and university, and I always wanted to live in an English-speaking country. So I went to Ireland in '91 to study, and there my English really took off, because before that I really had basic book English or school English, and obviously when you go to Ireland, it was definitely not the kind of English I was used to, and they were not used to my kind of English. It was quite funny. But the best way I found to improve my language was just to imitate their accents. So sometimes I still can't say Dublin. I say Dublin. I studied in Dublin, so I still have sort of remains of Irish accent. I just loved it. I find, generally speaking, accents are just so revelatory of where people come from, their culture, their personality. It's so rich. So I love Manchester accent. I really do. So even my own Alsatian accent is often made fun of, but it's, it really is part of my makeup. So when I left Ireland and came to the UK to settle down and work, I had to then again change my accent, because obviously in London you could not really go very far if you continue with an English accent. And just because of my ability to imitate accents, or to imitate what I could hear, to improve my English, I eventually very quickly ended up having a more sort of standard English accent, which my Irish friends were not very happy about, because they said I sounded far too posh after that. But I've been always trying to improve. Marrying into an English-speaking family helped a lot. I had some fantastic sisters-in-law who would not leave me alone, and they would always come and correct my mistakes. But funnily enough, after all these years, still today, my husband laughed, because I still cannot say he is whatever, he is big, or I say he is. First of all, it's so hard to say the the H. We don't have that in French, so I have to make an effort. And then if I'm a bit tired, I say he is. All right, so it's not exactly the same. Or you have the mistake of saying, for instance, instead of saying, you forget which one it is. So you tell someone at a table, oh, do you want to live with me? Or is it to leave with me? Or whatever, one of those. But obviously it can bring some very awkward misunderstandings. That is one of the issues I find I still have now, 30 odd years on, is when I get tired, my French accent comes out, which is okay, I guess, but then I make mistakes. I get sort of irritated and impatient, and sometimes I wish my husband, I could speak French to my husband. It would be sometimes easier, although he understands a lot. He's learned a lot just through me and the children. So it's now I've reached a point where I've been in an English-speaking environment from the age of 21, so 30 years ago. So most of my adult life has been in an English-speaking environment. I feel like it's really now a tipping point. I've gone over the mountain and I'm going down, where English is my main language, French is my secondary language. In most things I do. So everything that's professional, everything that has to do with the physical body, because that's where I learned about Pilates here in Britain. Everything that has to do with raising the children, even lullabies. And I learned a lot of lullabies with the children here at playgroups. Sometimes, all the time, when I have to tell the children off, it would come out in English. I just feel like there's two reasons. I am sure they'll understand me. They won't be able to claim them if they didn't understand what I meant. And the second thing is it just flows nicely. I think English is a lot more concise. French can be convoluted, heavy, with lots of that's and verbs, and whereas English can be a bit more concise. So you go much more straighter to the point, which I find is very useful with children, especially. I think that has to do with politics, psychology, all of these things that basically I've learned as an adult would come out a lot more easily in English. I feel like it just flows. But when it comes to things, I think it's Tommy who said that, when it comes to things that refer back to my childhood, maybe, so the sports I did when I was a child was horse riding. I continued when I was an adult here a bit, but really more intensively was in France. I really still struggle about the vocab related to that. So there's some things that I do, maybe the house, things related to the house, and the sort of practical things that would really directly refer back to my childhood, holidays, things like that, things I did come out a lot more easily in French. And I do much prefer to read novels in French, to the point that if it's not a novel that has a particular literary impact or importance, if you wish, and then I would read it translated into French. Otherwise, I would obviously, if it's like something a bit special, I would read it. I would try and read it in English. Not try, I would read it in English and enjoy the language. And things like, for instance, heavy novels like Lords of the Ring, whatever. Oh my God, no, thank you. I will read that in French, please, not in English. Things to imagine, like science fiction, imaginary novels, I do struggle in English. It requires a lot of imagination, and the images have to be really vivid for you to be able to visualize. So that would be the only thing where I would say, no, I prefer French novels, movies as well. If it's a French, obviously, if it's in French, it has to be in French. In France, anyway, in Britain, you don't have dubbing very much. In France, we do have dubbing, so yeah, you have the choice. But I still don't feel like I'm fully bilingual. I'm nearly there on a lot of aspects, but I still feel that I don't have to think. Like now when I'm speaking to you, I don't have to think about what I'm going to say in French, then in English. It comes out directly into English. Sometimes I don't even realize, don't remember if I spoke French or English in my family, for instance. And it has happened as well that I've turned around to someone who was French, spoke to them in English, and vice versa. Or my husband, I would speak to him in French, and he would just look at me quizzically and say, "What's wrong? What did I say?" And I was just talking French, didn't realize it. So there's still kind of things like this where it's a little bit tricky, I would say. But all in all, I deliberately came to England to live because I did not want to stay in France and just speak one language. Because in France, if you just have to speak French, first of all, is it like here? Yes, but there's also this sort of atmosphere where anybody's different. Anybody who speaks another language is looked down on, because how come you're not speaking the most beautiful language in the world and the best culture in the world, which is French, which something I discovered when I went to Ireland. The French were quite arrogant, and I was like, arrogant? What? So yes, I do see what they mean, what it meant then. So yes, I love the presentation we had. The professor was amazing. This is really, for me, it represents exactly what's absolutely beautiful about Britain in general, but Manchester in particular, London as well. But Manchester is this fascinating and rich mixed cultures that we have here that are visible. And I say that very clearly. French people who have been in France will know what I mean when I say that. Different cultures are visible, they are welcome, they are encouraged, they're supported, and they're developed.